My fiancé was a gold digger, and I only found out on the eve of our wedding. A year after calling off my wedding, she came crawling back, and I served her the coldest revenge. I come from a modest background. My parents were teachers, and while we never had much, we were rich in love. I busted my ass to get through college on scholarships and odd jobs. After graduation, I landed an entry-level tech job at a mid-sized company. Fast forward a few years, thanks to a combination of lucky timing, ruthless grind, and being in the right place at the right time, I worked my way up and got a significant equity stake in a startup that eventually blew up. By 27, I wasn't filthy rich by billionaire standards, but I was financially comfortable for life. I bought a nice home in the suburbs, took care of my parents, and invested the rest. I was proud, not for the money itself, but for what it represented every late night, every skipped meal, every moment I doubted myself. I met Jessica at a charity gala a friend dragged me to. She was stunning, blonde hair, green eyes, a laugh that made the room stop. We struck up a conversation, and she was witty, charming, and seemingly down to earth. She said she worked in marketing, loved dogs, and was a huge fan of indie films. Our chemistry was instant. For the first time, I felt like someone saw me, not my bank account or job title. We started dating, and everything felt easy. She never asked about my money. In fact, she seemed almost indifferent to it. She insisted on paying her share on dates, drove a beat-up old Civic, and lived in a modest apartment. After a year, I proposed. She cried, said yes, and it felt like the happiest moment of my life. The first red flag should have been her sudden obsession with Instagram-worthy venues for the wedding. We had talked about a small, intimate ceremony with close family and friends, but within weeks of the engagement, Jessica was pinning pictures of French chateaus and exotic beach resorts. "I just want our special day to be unforgettable," she'd say, her eyes sparkling. I told her my budget was $30,000, a generous amount for a wedding. In my opinion, she pouted but didn't push. Or so I thought. A few weeks later, she started suggesting we just look at other venues. One in particular was this absurdly lavish estate outside the city, the kind of place where the driveway alone probably cost more than my first car. I was uneasy but agreed to a tour. The venue was breathtaking, and Jessica was like a kid in a candy store. I reminded her of our budget, and she gave me this tight-lipped smile. "Of course, babe, just dreaming." 3 months before the wedding, Jessica went to Vegas for her bachelorette party. I trusted her, maybe foolishly. "But we all need our space, right?" She was cagey when she got back. "Wouldn't show me pictures," said her phone died halfway through the trip. Odd for a woman who usually flooded her Instagram with photos of her breakfast. A buddy of mine, Eric, happened to be in Vegas that same weekend for a work conference. He texted me a photo out of the blue. "Yo, man, isn't this your girl?" Yeah, it was a picture of Jessica, drunk, sitting on some random dude's lap at a club. His hand was a little too high on her thigh for comfort. She looked happy, carefree, and not like a woman engaged to be married. My stomach dropped. I confronted her, and she burst into tears. "I was drunk. It meant nothing. I didn't even remember it until you showed me." I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to. I chalked it up to a stupid mistake and told her I forgave her. But something in me shifted that day. A week before the wedding, I accidentally overheard a phone call she was having with one of her bridesmaids while I was in the garage grabbing a toolkit. I didn't mean to eavesdrop, but the words stopped me cold. Once I get that ring on my finger and his name on those accounts, it's game over. I'm set for life. Honestly, I don't even care if he cheats. I just want to be rich. I swear my heart stopped. I felt like I was going to throw up. I stood there gripping a wrench like it was the only thing keeping me grounded. She went on laughing about how she'd convinced me to sign a prenup. I didn't read properly because it protected her too, and how she was already eyeing properties in the Hamptons. I don't know how long I stood there, but eventually I quietly left the garage, got in my car, and drove. I didn't have a destination, just drove. That night I came back, calm in a way that didn't feel human. I sat her down and told her what I heard. At first she denied it, called me paranoid, tried to gaslight me into believing I misheard. When I told her I recorded it, I hadn't, but I needed to corner her. She crumbled. The crocodile tears came fast. I was just venting. I didn't mean it. I love you. But it was too late. I told her the wedding was off, called my lawyer the next morning to review the prenup. Thankfully, my paranoia from years ago had me write one that was airtight and ironclad in my favor, despite her protest when we drafted it. She left that day, hurling insults, calling me heartless, cold, selfish. It's been 6 months. The house is quiet. The silence is both comforting and deafening. I learned from mutual friends that Jessica moved in with a guy she met in Vegas, some wannabe influencer with a leased Lambo. A year after calling off my wedding, my gold digger ex came crawling back, and I served her the coldest revenge. Guinea figures. After everything went down, I buried myself in work, hit therapy hard, and gradually started feeling like a person again. Not the naive guy who fell for Jessica's lies. Not the heartbroken wreck she left behind. But something new, stronger, colder maybe, but real. I cut ties with every mutual friend we had, blocked her on everything, moved on. Or so I thought. Then out of nowhere, about a year to the day after I called off the wedding, she reached out. It was a random Wednesday night. I was working late on a new project, sipping on some bourbon when my phone buzzed. An unknown number. The message read, "Hey, it's Jess. I know I'm probably the last person you want to hear from, but can we talk? I miss you." For a second, I just stared at the screen. My heart didn't race. My hands didn't shake. There was no gut punch like I expected. Just this cold, detached curiosity. I should have ignored it, but something told me this wasn't just a late-night wine-fueled apology text. No, Jessica never reached out unless she wanted something. And I was right. I decided right then I'd respond, not to rekindle anything, not because I missed her, but because some people need to learn the hard way. So I replied, "Hey, been a while. What's up?" It didn't take long for her to bite. Within seconds, she was typing. I've been thinking about you, about us. I made so many mistakes. I was stupid. I was scared. I didn't realize what I had until it was gone. Cue eye roll. But I played along. Yeah, it was rough. I've thought about you too. She practically exploded after that. Said she still loved me, that she was in a bad place, that the guy she'd left me for some washed-up influencer named Mason had cheated on her with a 19-year-old OnlyFans model, left her broke, kicked out of the apartment they were squatting in, and she was living with her cousin in a tiny one-bedroom in a rough part of town. So, apparently her marketing job had dried up too. Turns out most of her gigs were just friends hooking her up through connections she'd burned when she ghosted them after getting with Mason. She told me she made the biggest mistake of her life walking away from me. I almost laughed out loud. I knew what she was after: the money, the lifestyle, the comfort. But she had no idea who she was dealing with now. So I told her we should meet up, that I missed her too, that maybe we could see if there was still something there. I booked us a table at this high-end rooftop restaurant downtown, the kind of place with a months-long waiting list and cocktails that cost more than her monthly car insurance. I pulled every string to get a reservation the next evening. I made sure I looked sharp. Nothing flashy, just clean, tailored, confident. She showed up 20 minutes late, like always, wearing a dress that was trying way too hard to scream, "I still got it." Truth be told, she looked different. Older, worn out. The sparkle in her eyes wasn't confidence anymore. It was desperation. She hugged me like nothing ever happened. Over dinner, she laid it all out, cried a little, told me Mason had drained her savings, left her with debt, said she was working part-time as a receptionist and barely making rent, that she missed being loved and having someone who really cared. Then came the kicker. "I've changed, babe. I realize money isn't everything. I just want us to be happy. Remember how good we were together?" I sipped my drink, smiled, and told her I believed her, that maybe we deserved a second chance. She practically glowed. A week later, I invited her to a housewarming party. I just bought a new property, a sprawling modern home overlooking the lake. Told her it was a celebration, and I wanted her to see the life we could have together. What she didn't know was that I'd also invited about 20 mutual acquaintances she'd screwed over. The bridesmaid she ghosted, the cousin whose wedding she trashed, even Eric the buddy who first sent me that Vegas photo. And Mason. Yup, I reached out to him through a fake business proposal and invited him to the same party, because if I was going to burn this bridge, I wanted witnesses. Jessica showed up early, dressed like she was walking a red carpet, acting like Queen Bee. She clung to my arm, gave air kisses to people she hadn't spoken to in a year, and started bragging about her man being back. Then Mason walked in. You should have seen her face. The blood drained out. Her grip on my arm tightened like a vice. She whispered, "What the hell is he doing here?" I shrugged. Thought it'd be fun. The room went dead silent when I tapped my glass for a toast. I just wanted to thank everyone for coming. It means the world to have so many old friends here. And some new ones. You all know I've had a hell of a year. And tonight isn't just about a new house. It's about starting fresh. About cutting out the dead weight, the liars, the gold diggers. Jessica's face twisted. I wasn't done. And it's about finally telling the truth. Like how a year ago, I called off a wedding because I caught my fiancé scheming to use me for my money. How she laughed behind my back, planned to take me for everything, and when it all fell apart, ran off with a scam artist. Gasps around the room. Jessica's eyes filled with tears. She whispered, "Please stop." I kept going. And how now, when she's broke and desperate, she tried to crawl back, pretending she changed, hoping to weasel her way into my life again. Well, not tonight. I turned to her, voice ice cold. Get out of my house. She stood there, frozen, trembling. For the first time in her life, she had no comeback. Mason, the coward, tried to slink out too, but Eric blocked the door. Jessica left in tears, humiliated in front of everyone. Word spread fast. Within days, she was a social pariah. Every bridge she hadn't already burned went up in flames. She tried calling me a dozen times. I never answered. I didn't do it to be cruel. Okay, maybe a little, but mostly I did it because some people don't learn unless you show them what they really are. And because the man I was a year ago needed that justice. I slept like a baby that night,